Okay. Yeah, welcome everyone. Let's see, I'm actually going to can I put myself on gallery view? I like to have gallery view so I can see who's here. Yeah, welcome everyone. Thank you for taking time out from your busy lives to join us for Thank You Life's Fireside Chat with Leonard Pickard. I'm super excited about this one, and I know it's going to be super interesting evening. My name's Laura Lacrane, and I'm the board chair of Thank You Life. And I'd like to just, say thanks to everyone who has supported our mission to ensure that everyone, regardless of their ability to pay, have access to the healing that's possible with plant medicines and with psychedelic assisted care, which is our mission. So I know that many of you, I see a few board members and some staff members and some loyal supporters here. So thank you again for everything you do to make our mission possible. Yeah, and just thank you again for being here. And now I have the pleasure to pass the talking piece to our co-executive director, Meredith Thomas. We have our other co-executive director here, Samantha Retrosi. But tonight, Meredith is going to introduce our guest and guide us in this chat. So thanks, Meredith. Take it on.
Thank you, Laura. Thanks so much. Happy to be here with this intimate crowd tonight. Listen, before I introduce Leonard, which is a real honor, I thought that we would go ahead and take a poll to get a read of the room. There you go. So take the poll. Ronnie, do you have the results?
Yeah, I think everybody filled it out. Here, I can end it. Can you see them now?
All right. So everybody has had some kind of experience with LSD. All right. Well, I have the great honor of introducing Leonard. Leonard, thank you so much for being with us tonight. Also note that Leonard actually serves on our advisory council as well. So we're grateful for all of that. There's a lot to say about your life. I'm going to just share a few little nuggets. I know that going back in time, as a high school student, you were identified as a star student. You were awarded a national award. You were given a full scholarship to Princeton. You didn't continue there, but you were given the full scholarship. Let's see, what else can I share? You went to the West Coast, to San Francisco. You learned chemistry there, as far as I know. Some of this is maybe mythical, so I'm sharing what I do know, the little nuggets, okay?
You're good so far.
Okay. Let's see. You have been at powerhouse institutions, academic institutions. You have a master's from the Harvard Kennedy School. You actually did graduate from Purdue. You were a researcher. Oh, maybe not.
It's a long story.
At UCLA.
Hmm.
And let's see, you were a Zen monk, living at a Soto Zen Center for 2 years. You allegedly manufactured 90% of the world's LSD supply. So maybe if you took LSD in the 90s, you took what Leonard actually alchemized. Somewhere along the line, you served 2 life terms in maximum security prison and had the beautiful gift of getting compassionate release after 20 years. When you were in prison, you wrote a 700-page book with pen and paper, which I've actually almost finished. and that's been published. It's called The Rose of Paracelsus. There are probably some more that I'm not sharing, but now in this, what you call your second life, you are now deep in the psychedelics movement again. You are a biotech entrepreneur. I guess that's one way I would say it. And then finally, and I'm going to ask you about this, you are a survivor of, I think, 10 million doses of LSD hitting you at once. So that's what I'll say as a little lead up about Leonard. But, but really,
It's probably a
Leonard,
very good story. Yeah, we can do that during our hour together.
yeah. Really, I was wondering if you would be willing to introduce yourself, if you would be willing to share maybe something kind of take away the myth, kind of strip that and share some about what you remember being like as a younger person, pre-prison, what your life was like then, and then prison, and then what it's like now for you.
Well, thank you. Well, currently, I'm an advisor to a JLS fund in New York City, a neuromedicine fund. JLS Fund 2. Um, I'm a research affiliate at Harvard Law School in biotechnology and sit on various boards. I'm very active in the space as much as possible. Early life, well, you missed a lot of interesting stories. Uh, Arrived in San Francisco at the age of 21 after my first synthesis of LSD at 21 at the Retina Foundation for Experimental Biology in Boston, Massachusetts. So that's a good story too, that first experience. A life underground from 21 to 55 when I was detained by federal authorities, and am one of the handful of survivors of 2 life sentences without the possibility of parole. First state of the last, all in maximum security. It's the most violent place outside of a war zone one might experience. Lots of beatings and killings and what have you. And somehow, and I can thank Laura for the meditative introduction, I found that the practice of sitting meditation was absolutely necessary to psychically survive such a brutish environment, constant screaming and fights and tension and almost impossible cliff face to scale toward freedom. So the meditative approach was very, very helpful. Each night I would do some yoga to deconstrict the muscles and prepare for meditation. Then a long meditation before bed, lights out, and then a prayer for my family and loved ones, and for a shred of hope to somehow return to the light of the world miraculously, an absolute miracle. It happened. It was a confluence of events, political activity, the president signing off on a certain bill, bipartisan members in the last few days of the congressional term put across a bill that allowed prisoners for the first time to petition judges directly for relief. The COVID epidemic factored into it, the fentanyl epidemic factored into it, and here we are. Here we are, post miracle and living a miracle each day. I can't express my gratitude sufficiently to the many loving friends and family and those such as you who have been so very kind in receiving me from the darkness.
Thanks, Leonard. Since you said it was a good story, would you mind sharing about that first synthesis?
Okay.
Anyone?
I can do this one. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. 21, I'm with my coworker. I'm a technician in the Retina Foundation. I'm chopping up beef hearts and extracting mitochondria for the biochemists to do their exotic experiments. And we were talking about the phenomenon that was occurring in San Francisco in the This is 66. And thousands of young people were experiencing this compound called LSD and then heading to the Bay Area where people were congregating. We thought, wow, that's very interesting. And what is this material? There's very little literature at the time about it. So we managed through the Retina Foundation letterhead to get a few grams from, still legal at the time, a laboratory in England, and spent all weekend doing this archaic synthesis and working. We didn't have the instruments to analyze it, to validate it, or determine the dosage or anything. So 6 in the morning, we're finished. We have this liquid, and I was the guinea pig. We had no idea what the effects were or anything about it, or how strong it was, what have you. So I took a few drops. It's dawn, staggered out overnight, walked to Harvard Square. Quite a long walk, good half hour. I board a bus. I'm sitting in the back of the bus, and it's the time of the Beatles playing Magical Mystery Tour, I'm the Walrus, that sort of thing. So really unusual music was being created, many ascribed to the psychedelics. And upon the bus, I'm waiting for this material to start. Didn't know what was going to happen. And a girl got on the bus. She's 21, very pretty, short, blonde hair, a little pixie cut. She got on the bus, and I looked at her, and I thought, we are part of a new generation. We are at an evolutionary moment in human history where subtle neurochemicals can create profound changes in our worldview. We will become more compassionate. We will become more accepting and tolerant of others. We will have a vivid life of the mind. We will care for the great forest. We will heal the oceans. We will dance beneath the radiant starlight. We will recognize each other, our brothers and sisters throughout the world. We will disavow war and materialism. We will create a future of the highest nobility of humankind. And I looked out at Harvard Square and I looked back at the girl and I thought, I must be getting off.
All right. That's good, Leonard. Thank you. Thanks. So I'm almost all the way through the Rosa Paracelsus, which I said it's 700 pages. It's an extraordinary, quasi autobiography. Really enjoying it. Just amazing to me that you wrote that in prison.
In pencil, in pencil.
Pencil and paper. But I want to quote something in there. You write that the making of LSD is not just following a formula, but requires, and here's the quote, the requisite spirit, the purest intent, a flawless diamond morality. So I was wondering if you could expand on what you mean by this. And then part two, in today's rapidly expanding psychedelics movement, do you think we can preserve that pure spirit of which you speak?
Well, I'll try to express this a parallel of what we mean by a diamond morality, and maybe tell a little story about one of the practices in the laboratory that may illuminate that concept. You're dealing with a situation of possibly considerable influence. You're hundreds of millions of doses. That's planetary scale quantity. And so you can't simply treat it in a cavalier manner. Oh, it's 5 o'clock, I'm done. Let's get this stuff out the door. That's not the way So the way is one of gradually entering a state of respect and concern and care and meticulous effort, undivided attention, searching one's heart for any blemish, any negativity, any anger, hatred. Getting into the purest possible state one can develop in one's own life. I should really just go to one of the practices there that can shine some light on this. Imagine yourself in a remote clandestine laboratory of some scale. There have only been 5 or 6 of them. A very remote desert environment, for example, or the far mountains. And no one ever comes because you wouldn't want to risk your friends' lives along with your own. And it's best there be solitude and peace, as much as peace that can be sustained within a climate of fear of arrest every second of every day for a lifetime. So you're in this laboratory. It's walls of glassware to the ceiling, custom synthesized, beautiful reaction kettles and purification apparatus. And it's all bathed in red photographic light, like a dark room, because white light will damage the fragile molecule. You're dressed in protective clothing. There may be votives burning in another room, a fire burning. There may be music playing, Gregorian chant or something soothing. And there comes a time in the synthesis, which requires several weeks, where you have all the reactants in a 22-liter stirred vessel, glass vessel, in the red light, in the silence of the desert night, at the end of weeks of work. And there's a place where all these reactants, which don't do anything to you, suddenly become the strongest neurochemical known. And at that point, it's like the Ark of the Covenant, like one opens a chamber from which massive revolutions flow outward. It's a spiritual view of it. But the chemists I've talked to, the handful that do this sort of thing, always do some kind of religious practice. The Judeo-Christian religion, for example, will offer a prayer, hand on the reactor, standing or kneeling. And the prayer goes in various ways, something like this. Hand on the reactor, in the 30 seconds it takes from all these reactants that do nothing to become 10 million doses. In 30 seconds, you have this entity that is born to give light, appears. It's a stirred vessel, 10 million doses suddenly. And during that period, a hand on the reaction kettle with a little prayer. There are many variations. But one way you could say it is, if you're a Judeo-Christian, you might say, "Dear Lord," or "Oh God," or "the celestial spirit of the Great Father," or whatever entity of love runs this universe. You say, "May this substance be a benevolent spirit in the world. May it go out around the world safely. May it do no harm. May it somehow make hearts more human, more compassionate, more loving. May it bring us together May we be able to speak in languages perhaps others can't realize. May we communicate with words and feelings and vibrations and the look on each other's faces. May light emanate from us and within us and across us. May light permeate every cell. May we praise the joy of existence with every breath and every footstep. May we feel gratitude for being a thinking animal on this beautiful planet for just a moment. And a prayer like that is said. So in terms of what is diamond morality, perhaps that's one way of expressing it.
Thank you for that, Leonard. I'm curious if you know if that prayer has ever been answered in a way, it's a strange way of terming it, but have you gotten feedback about that prayer?
Funny you should ask that question. That's a very good one. 20 years in the pen, you ask yourself, is my karma all screwed up? But frankly, because it was approached in that way, there was a very sustaining memory and thought, as though one had done nothing wrong. And so even during the brutal years, there was that feeling of endurance, the type of purity, the type of protection from the harshness of imprisonment forever. So there's always a little light burning. It's like John Lennon, there is a light that shines on us. So the little light was never extinguished. And even though the nights became very dark. Yeah. I don't mean to get so somber here in our conversation.
Well, maybe we can switch it up slightly, and I know this will make you happy. I think let's talk about Albert Hoffman.
Oh, Albert, yes, lovely.
Albert, so he invented LSD or discovered it, or however that happened. Hailed as a hero. There's a day of the year in honor of him, and yet those who manufacture what this amazing person created are then criminals. That's not lost on me. But I was wondering, or if you could talk about meeting Albert and what it meant to you.
I did meet Albert.
Yeah.
And
What that was like.
we had a nice conversation. It was in Heidelberg in the mid-90s, and Albert was speaking at the European Conference on Consciousness, filled with young people with simultaneous translations in German and English. And Sasha was there. Dave Nichols was there. I was there. We had a good old time wandering the streets of Heidelberg, a university town. And there was Albert. Albert at that time was in his, approaching his mid 90s, early 90s. And he was, very, very, very serious, but smiled and twinkled. He had on his gray suit, very proper. And I caught him at 3 in the morning in front of like 200 youth with quite colorful mohawks. And they were all rapt at Albert speaking in German, explaining his experiences. So he sent me a copy of his book, autographed copy to Cambridge, which was a great treasure until it was seized by DEA and waved around at trial, going, "Look at this, jury," directly from the inventor of LSD, as though that was a criminal act. But I have a couple of good Albert anecdotes briefly. Synergetics Press recently published the English translation of his last work, a technical work on ergotamine, with a great foreword by Amanda Fielding, of the great Amanda of the Beckley Foundation. I did the afterwards to dimethylcoin alkaloida, which is the ergot alkaloids. A lot of dense chemistry, but so in the afterward, I managed to get some stories from Albert's son Andreas. And Albert had a beautiful property in a town called Ritamata near the French border of Switzerland. It's still there. And was married to his wife Anita for a lifetime. And they would walk at the end of each day, hand in hand, down to a little bench overlooking France and sit there. And they each planted a tree, which in the course of their love grew to sizable trees. Each is buried under their tree. But also, Albert also did a funny thing, like he grew plum trees from seed until they were big and luscious and bearing fruit. And they would harvest the plums and ferment them. And he had snuck out of Sandoz when he left a glass distillation apparatus, which he put in the basement of his house. You take the fermented plums and distill it in this glass apparatus. He would bottle it up and then put labels on it that he had drawn the art for. And this is Blumenwasser, it's plum schnapps, and would give this as a gift to the endless line of people that come to pay homage to him and visit Albert and Anita. So it was a very loving household. Andreas was a grown man of 24 or 5 in America before he knew his father was the inventor of LSD. He kept that information from his children, even all these people coming and going. He never discussed it. And Andreas found out about this when someone asked, "Well, Hoffman, Switzerland, are you?" And he put it together. So that shows the humility of Albert and how he raised his children. So.
Thank you. Well, let's see. I only have about 5 minutes. I have a lot more questions, but since we're sitting around the fire, so to speak, and one tells stories when sitting around the fire, I was wondering if you would tell the story that I think a lot of people want to hear, or maybe have heard about. Well, maybe you all haven't heard it that are on this talk, but you know what I'm talking about. Apparently, there's not a lethal dose of LSD. This is my takeaway from this story, but it's that story. You know what I'm talking about.
Well, I wouldn't go home and take untold quantities of it. I mean, it could be after, the first 1,000 mics, it could be sort of
I'll
uncomfortable.
build it up. Could you tell the story about when you were hit with 10 million doses of LSD?
I can do that. And I'll try to truncate it because I could probably go on for 20 minutes, but I'll try to just get to the core of it. We'll go reasonably quickly and then, yes. So it's 3 in the morning, end of 2 weeks, and I'm fatigued. I'm up on a wall of glassware with gloves on, protective gear, and the 10 million doses is swirling in methylene chloride, which is goes through skin very promptly. And I'm holding this large flask with the 10 million doses, and my hand slips. Crash! Drenched with the whole quantity. It was about 6 liters of methylene chloride with the 10 million doses, completely drenched me. And of course, this went through every protective garment I had immediately. My skin is soaked, it's going in. I fall off the ladder into the floor. I'm screaming. I'm into glass shards and all the rest of it. And I'm going, oh God, oh God. But I can't call an ambulance because I might get life in prison. So I'm screaming, thinking, no human has ever had this exposure. What happens now? And I'm staggering and managed to get to the shower. I'm stripping off my clothes and in the shower, scrubbing furiously, and angel choirs are sort of taking off. This is the first few seconds, and worlds without end. I don't know how to describe it. Religious symbols permeating every uh, centimeter. And there we were. And I managed to get into the front room. By that time, the visual field is completely deconstructed. Candles and votives were kind of floating in the air. I can't see, everything's billowing. And I managed to bring on a work shirt and a pair of jeans and sort of get out to the portal, which in New Mexico is kind of a porch where the great vigas, these are tree trunks, if you will, and the ceilings, and a special type of adobe architecture. And I'm on an isolated 10 acres looking out over endless desert, 30 miles to the Jemez range. And it's a full moon night. And I think I may die. And that's just the first 2 minutes. It won't even come on for a half an hour, right? So I back up against the wall, sigh, and just sort of slide down the wall in the work shirt and jeans and barefoot into a lotus position, waiting for some cataclysmic neurological cinema to become florid. But it became very silent. It's like the deepest silence one could possibly imagine. It's like the entire visual field, everything I could see and feel, became motionless and deeply quiet, as though something very grand and momentous was about to happen. And I looked at the ground, and a few of the stones were like jewels. I looked at the plants, and the plants were alive, living organisms, breathing the delicious gases of this world. And the stars were cascading, the edge of the galaxy, the Magellanic Clouds, and the moonlight was falling down upon the ground. I could feel little freshets of cool desert wind against my cheek. I could hear night birds stirring. And as I looked at this scene, I thought, we already have that which we're seeking by taking a drug. We already have great hearts. We have great loving hearts. We have ultimate intelligence. We can understand anything with a little effort and care. We are filled with an ocean of compassion for the suffering of the world. We have everything already inside us. And on this transcendently beautiful night and moment, and the silence and the stars and the ground, the life infinite, I thought the good Lord, for lack of a better word, would not be so cruel as to make this vision dependent upon a pill. It's a perception that is achievable just with a moment's consideration, just stopping for a moment and realizing all we have, the glory of being alive, our mere existence, the boundless gifts of life. And that was a very good feeling to know that finally. It's like coming home something we'd forgotten that we had as children before all the craziness and the drugs and the purity of a child's mind, a new life being born. And so it was that night, like being born or remembering being born. So I sat there, and the moon set and the sun rose almost the same time. And the radiance of the day fell upon the earth. It was a beautiful morning. Around noon, I went into the kitchen and had some juice, and straightened everything up, some ritual cleaning, reconsecrated the environment, lit some photos, and began the next batch.
Uh, Thank you for the story, Leonard. Beautiful.
Nice realization.
Yeah. I'm going to ask one more question and then open it up to our beautiful band people here. So switching gears a little bit from that poetic story. Just wondering if you could talk about, so you were involved and participated in the underground psychedelics movement and then served 20 years away and then came out into a much different world of the psychedelics movement. And I was just, could you share some about what that was, what that was like for you or what it is like for you now, even this above ground psychedelics movement? And then also what you see as some of the cautions of this time and the advantages of this legal above ground movement, of which Thank You Life is a part.
Well, I'm ecstatic and floored, and had never dreamed of the situation that occurs now. My lifetime was spent under a period of great government oppression, where if you breathed the word psychedelic, it would end your career, especially academic. It was considered fringe, laughable, kooky, irrelevant, and why go that way? Except for the quite a number of adherents that spoke of it secretly, pull down the shades to do this sort of thing. And then within the prison system, I heard very little about the transitions that were going on in the community. We would occasionally have a copy of the New York Times, that sort of thing. So I wasn't quite aware of the wonderful transitions. I knew a little bit about Roland's work at Hopkins, which is a great transition. And of course, I knew Rick personally, and so much admire all of that. But to walk out into, after being, persecuted at gunpoint as the worst person in the world, to walk out into the sunlight, where now you have academic research centers from Yale to UCLA all across the United States taking this matter very seriously. As we did as very young people, we took it seriously, but we had no resources or positions or voice. But it was all quite serious. And so that's where the dedication comes in for a lifetime. But now I see it widely accepted, it's immense mainstreaming, all sorts of new people coming in, having the classical psychedelic experiences that we know so well. And it's lovely to see it. I'm particularly delighted by some of the changes. I'm happy to see the medicalization, although I think Roland, before he died, said, don't leave it to the stuffy academics. He was suggesting that there should be an underground availability for adults that wish to experiment without having to go through application procedures or present with emotional difficulties. There should always be a certain freedom of the body and mind for responsible users. I'm pleased to see as well the the new ways in which things are being done, the ceremonial use, particularly, for example, the ayahuasca circles that are coming up, the reverence and enthusiasm around almost miraculous responses of cures from, say, ibogaine use, or the gentler and shorter aspects of psilocybin tea and what have you. As though there's tribes forming around each substance. In the 60s, it was only the parent compound. LSD was widely available. Now we see 4 or 5 classical hallucinogens. More recently, the 5-methoxy being so widely used, even in the ibogaine clinics outside the States. The 5-methoxy is used to tie up the end of the experience at the end of the week. It seems to be very effective in that way. So we're hearing a lot of things. We're learning a lot. Academically, in the next 3 years, we'll learn more about psychedelics than has been known throughout history. So we're getting, and with the hundreds of clinical trials occurring, we're going to get at the truth of what these things can do and what they can't do. I'm not so much of an enthusiast as I would think that it's a panacea for all man's ills. I think that this class of compounds could be very useful for depression, anxiety, marital issues, pretty wide applications, but not a cure-all for everything. Strong evidence for certain psychiatric indicators. With millions of new analogs being created through AI and through classical syntheses. So we're going to see lots of new compounds. Most will be just a washout, sort of uninteresting, sort of a turn-on psychedelic of no consequence. Some will be miraculous medicines. Some will be deleterious, even killers, like N-bomb, has caused considerable loss of life being trafficked as LSD. Fortunately, that went away. We don't see that much anymore. So the future is both blessed and glorious, and also a little dangerous. So let's just keep our heads up, try to have fewer divisions in the community. There's no reason to point the fingers at anyone and say you're bad and this is bad, that sort of thing. And when this whole thing started, the worldwide psychedelic community was relieved to know each other. The social barriers were dropping. You could find each other by various cues, voice, values, sometimes physical appearance. Knew who had had these experiences that only each other can understand. So things are, I believe, are getting better. I love the fact that these things can be talked about publicly. That so many people are entering the field. That great hope remains, and so I'm very happy. I like the ceremonial aspects, particularly the use of these things with intention, not just popping a pill and going dancing, but we will now have an experience together of consequence and beauty and sharing, and we will remember this night together. That sort of thing.
Wonderful. Thank you, Leonard. Well, I want to open it up to the room. Any of you would like to ask Leonard any questions?
Oh, Trip.
Yeah, it looks like we have one in the chat.
Yeah, I see Trip. I'm aware of Trip. We haven't personally met, but I'm aware of his good work. And yay, what's up?
Trip, do you want to come on camera? Okay,
If not, one of us can read it.
I'll read
Meredith.
it.
Yeah.
Oh,
they say cool.
See,
Yeah.
you clearly had spiritual beliefs and experiences associated with LSD. did you ever consider using a religious defense, and or would you have used a religious defense if today's precedent had been in existence?
Yes, that's quite a possibility. I was just asked that the other day. Would I have presented a different defense than I did at trial? At trial, I was surrounded by extremely conservative Kansas jury with no experience. They purposely had me seize me in Kansas to expose me that rather than in San Francisco, where the jury might have been more favorable. So I used a very conservative defense. Um, but I would have preferred to use a religious one. It might have reached a few of the jurors because Kansas has a strong religious groups. Um, but that would have required admission of, yes, I did this, and I couldn't quite bring myself to do that publicly at the time. It was unwise. We were just trying to survive, and through the grace of God, we did. My co-defendant was just commuted by Biden, but just before Biden left office, and so we're all back. We're back into quite a wonderful world, which brings up a little take-home lesson. I barely survived this. So it's like the world now is like being given a new life. It's literally, in the Christian sense, like being born again from the blackness cave filled with demons into a world of light and mothers pushing prams and flowering trees. And so I often ask myself, well, what do I do now? Do I try to make up for all those years by, indulgence and pleasures and what have you? And so I've come to the conclusion that no, I don't want to rush around and devour the world or get involved in great indulgences or take any drug. Rather, I'd like to pay back the grace that has been extended to me. And that means doing something kind of wonderful in one small way, whatever one's way is. Trips, direction, writing a passage in a book, extending kindnesses to friends, playing with children, just being as loving a person in the community as possible. In the end, that was a great teaching. I wouldn't recommend people go through 2 life sentences to learn it, but maybe we can learn a little bit now in your own life, in each of our lives. This is the beginning of all the future. All humankind hence fans out from this very moment together. And so as we go about our day, whatever our job is, accounting, barista, bus driver, whatever, do it as though you've been given the gift of life again. And do it with grace. One smiles a lot. Yeah. Thank you, Trip.
Great. Thank you for answering my question.
Hi, I had a question, maybe kind of following on the last sort of answer a bit, but it's a bit topical. I'm 25 or 26. I'm in my mid 20s, and I guess I was just curious about like the idea of vocation. Like it seems like this became a vocation for you for a time to synthesize LSD, and like how did you know it was that? How did you come to that? And then following this vocation that, was illegal, that carried all these consequences potentially. And then actually, like, what was that like to kind of listen to that calling, right? Vocation comes from vocatio, the Latin for calling.
Well, it's definitely calling. One of the other larger scale manufacturers was Nick Sand, of the Brotherhood of Eternal Love. Nick and I were friends as young men. He considered it an actual calling. But keep in mind, this is all dreadfully illegal and prohibited. And I'm not recommending anyone manufacture, use a controlled substance.
No, but the general like idea of following through on a calling, regardless of, I mean, not, I don't think for most of us our callings are quite that illegal, if illegal at all, but
Well, most of the callings that I've run into have been either religion, like a divinity student, a person called to the priesthood, or calling to medicine, which is a more familiar to me personally. Um, You know, you choose a path in life that you feel is the best thing for the world, in which you would have endless energy to participate in your studies or your practices. You have to choose sometime in life which way to go. And you can spend a great deal of life trying to make that decision. So the earlier in life you choose, perhaps the better. You can become more advanced. You're not going to miss out on anything in this world, no matter what direction you choose. Everything happens to you sooner or later in life. No one escapes everything life has to give. So if you want to write, put pen to paper. If you want to play music, let your heart fly.
I guess like, did you ever question your calling, or were you ever frightened or unsure, like in that whole period, leading up to being 55 or 60 and continuing with that path?
Of uncertainty. Well, that would be particularly relevant if you're doing something as illegal. You ask yourself, why am I doing? Why am I risking myself and career and family? Why do you do that? It has to be something deeply, deeply calling to you. At that point, it's almost political. People give up their lives for political action. They go to war. So there is, and I address this in my book as well, Meredith, in the first chapter, the soul searching. The decision is what I'm doing an undeniable, absolute thing that I must do as a duty for the good of the world? Or is it a criminal act? Now, that's a tough one. In one, you forget all about it and go home and become a carpenter or a scientist or drive a cab. And never have to worry about the fear anymore or the uncertainty. This is a long philosophical wrestling period that may go on before a decision of such consequences made in any dedicated life. So that's the best I can do. All right, what are you thinking of, Sam?
Oh, I've got a few directions. Yeah, I guess I'm not overly too concerned. It was just interesting for me to imagine. I mean, I have my own kind of like dangerous callings, rock climbing and pursuits like that, which carry consequences for sure. I mean, consequences for family and friends potentially and all that stuff. But it's just interesting to me that idea of like sitting there and hearing this calling for something that was so defined as criminal, and to sort of come to terms with that. And
Yeah,
yeah.
that's a tough one because if you go that way, the people that still do it, I think, these days, if you go that way, then you are suddenly separate from society. You are, most of my life was spent in clandestine activity, I had multiple identities. Every second of every day from 21 to 55 was spent being very careful about leaving tracks or traces, or you can't discuss your life with anyone. And so that really limits your social life down to a handful of friends that might know what you're up to. You can't go to gatherings or dinners or parties and people say, "What do you do?" without being deceptive. Uh, you one is an outsider trying to bring people together. So that's an awkward position, but doable. I don't recommend it. I'm thoroughly retired, so
Yeah, yeah.
okay. Yeah. Another question? Do we have?
I have a question. Um, I was wondering, were you always a science or chemistry major, or did you ever have like an English as an undergrad or something? Because your prose, and I just feel that your book stands out so much with all the other literature that I've picked up throughout the years, and I just really do enjoy just how flowery you are.
Well, well, may the flowers bloom. I'm rewriting the rose sometime this year for the first edition, so I'll change it up a little bit. But to start out, I envisioned as a teen a life in neuroscience, teaching at university and doing research in neuroscience. The brain is where the action is. But then when the revolution hit in the 60s, and people were suddenly talking about, God and life and the world and who are we and where are we going, and having all these incredible phenomena subjectively, it's like millions of young people, the 18 to 25 cohort across the capitals of the world, everybody got off together. It was like a whole generation awakened together. That was quite a period to be that age in. So, yeah, that's the best I can do on that one.
Thank you.
Oh, in terms of English, in terms of the flowery prose, if you will, of the rose, it's very dense English and it's very mannered and archaic and Victorian. I thought it would be fun. I try to follow the prose of Jorge Luis Borges. You want to read his collected fictions, ficciones, massively beautiful, most beautiful English prose I've ever seen. So I tried to emulate Borges in the writing. No, you don't see an English word used twice, just articles. It's kind of a long, dense poem. As you read it, you have to go slowly. Can't hasten through it. I would read every word to develop a rhythm of the language. Go slow and follow the rhythm, and enjoy the poetry. It's nice to speak to some readers here tonight. So.
I have to admit, I had to pull up like a thesaurus from time to time. There were certain words that I didn't understand, but that's the challenge that I like. As an undergrad, I was a biochem student, so as you know, science is very dense and straight to the point, and so for me, it's actually hard to be poetic and things, and so I try to challenge myself and read more stuff like that. So I actually picked up a second copy because my first copy is so beat up.
Oh yes, well, I'm glad it's unfortunate that you like, and email me what you like. The reason for the prose, I was a STEM undergraduate, science, and never did any serious reading until suddenly I'm stuck in a cell thinking I'm going to die there. I was never without a book, ever,
Yeah.
ever, all day long, except for writing legal motions. And I read all the British literature, all the greats, Dickens, Thackeray, and on and on and on, all the poets, Percy Bysshe Shelley, and goodness, everything for 20 years. And so a lot of the language of the rose comes from those readings and the beauty of the English language. If you will, it's just trying to remember my experiences of the world, because after the first year, it's surrounded by 30-foot walls and
Yeah.
gun
Yeah.
towers, and there's not a living tree or a flower. After the first year, after the first third or fourth year, and the fifth year, and the sixth year,
Wow.
the
We have,
image of the world begins to fade. You can't see big cities. You can't see trees. There's nothing.
Right.
You have to kind of remember it. And that memory becomes frailer and frailer and frailer until you can't remember what your wife or children.
Yeah. Wow.
Right. So
Yeah.
Rose was an
Beautiful.
attempt to recreate the world and remember the majesty.
Mm.
Beautiful.
I want to say we have time for one more question, and then we need to say a goodbye to Leonard, at least for now. But one more question?
I have one. Can I jump in, or is there someone else?
Please do.
Yeah. Oh, wow. So moved by so many things that you spoke, Leonard. But when you described that moment on the bus and the woman coming onto the bus, and you were like, "This is an evolutionary moment. We'll care for the forest. We will heal the oceans. We will live as compassionate humans," and all of this. And I'm just wondering, like, how do you feel about that today? Do you feel that we are actually now at another potentially evolutionary moment relative to the psychedelic renaissance, or relative to just humanity evolving? Obviously, there's a lot of things you probably have to say about that.
I can answer that.
Yeah,
I absolutely do. Absolutely do. Did you remember Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory?
of course.
Okay, so Willy Wonka said, first, you have to dream the dream.
Hmm.
So I think that even though the dreams of the 60s may not have gone to complete fruition, we're seeing quite a marvelous resurgence going on right now, where it's not just a few of us young hippies, it's distinguished scientists from around the world and governments and universities really paying attention to things and really having intense experiences. Is much bigger now. So it may be too big to be suppressed again, which means it may grow and grow and grow. Um, it is truly an evolutionary moment, not just in psychedelics, but in science and medicine. Just in the last 18 months, the advent of the great AI models and the absolute power that these machine entities have for processing information. I talk to mine all day long. I have all the advanced models gifted from OpenAI and Grok and Gemini Ultra and everything. I use it all day long for my biotech work. And so it is a fabulous moment. We're going to see new materials, new thin films. You're going to see new photovoltaics, solar energy fusion power equations solved. It is the greatest scientific advances in the last 2 years I've seen in my lifetime. So I have great hope. Even though there's still inequities and wars and disease and all those things that take away from our spirit, the hope for the beauty and positive future of the world remains and is growing. I think we're going to have a ball.
Wonderful. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. And thank all you guys. This has been a very pleasant little chat. I hope we had some fun together.
Meredith, is it over to me now to close?
Sure, Let
Yeah.
me just
Okay.
close it out saying thank you, Leonard. Thank you so much. What a gift to have you with us. Really, what a gift you are. Thank you for being such a beacon of hope. Really.
Well, thank you, Rev. Many blessings to everyone here tonight. Thank you, Trip and Sam and Laura and Ronnie and everyone that came tonight. And
Mm.
Many blessings, and we'll see you soon.
Yeah, and let's just let Laura then close our container as she does
Yeah.
beautifully.
Well,
Thank you.
thank you. Thank you, Meredith. I know I speak for everyone here, Leonard, that it's been really a deeply moving and inspiring evening. I'm just blown away by your words and your spirit and your love and your poetry and your prayer. And thank you. Thank you for being here. And yeah, your prayer, thank you, life. We're most known, I would say, for helping people with mental health crisis, through these wonderful psychedelic assisted modalities. And yet I think the bigger prayer for Thank You Life is that these medicines, as they make their way into the mainstream or have access, everyone has access to them, that there is a shift in humanity and consciousness in humanity. That's the bigger prayer that Thank You Life holds, and that I heard you speak today. And so, yeah, your prayer, I would like, if it's okay with permission, I didn't write it down perfectly, but the prayer that you spoke, that you had a beautiful description of, I think, holding on to the cauldron or something in the lab, and saying this prayer of, may this substance be benevolent spirit in the world. May it spread safely. May it do no harm. May it make humans more loving, more compassionate. May we praise the joy of existence with every step. And may light permeate the world. And so I, with your permission, just borrow that prayer and hold that prayer for this moment that we're in, of making these beautiful medicines accessible to all. And thank you again for this incredible evening. And thank you, everybody, for coming. Please stay in the family, stay in the circle. And as we continue to share evenings like this and continue to serve people in the world. So thank you all for being here, and see you soon. Thank you.
Take care.